2 years now, nearly 2 years to bring this to finally to this point, delivery to the end users, and an opportunity for everybody, if they haven't had an experience with the digital assessment library, with Q Global, with Q Interactive, this is your opportunity. Thank you, Jamie, for setting the norms around account access and account questions. Those are going to be addressed in the chat. You can address them in the chat by way of the contact information that Kim has put in. So either the phone number and option 4 to help with access issues. Otherwise, you can check with your supervisor, administrator as well, because it's a hierarchical setup and they may have some additional intel for you as well. So there's a group of about 4 or 5 of us from Pearson today. We're super excited to kick this off. I'm standing in the way of the meat and potatoes of the session, so I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Laura, who is going to be going through the training with us. But with Laura, I'm also joined by Natalie Bernard, who is the assessment consultant for the state of Tennessee, Tammy Radzai, who is our manager of our training services program, and Kimberly Alazano, who is the regional manager for Pearson Clinical Assessment for the East, covering the great state of Tennessee. So with that, I will kick it over to Laura.
Okay, thank you so much, Adam. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to see how many people were able to join us today. So welcome. Please enter your questions in the chat. We have team members who are going to be addressing them, and we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to jump into Q Global first. So we have 2 different platforms that we're talking about today. And just a reminder, if everybody could mute their lines.
Yeah. Laura, we did mute everyone, but that also muted you. So just come right on back off mute and we'll get heading on to the presentation. Again, just a reminder for everyone, watch that mute button and make sure we stay on mute.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right, so we are talking about 2 platforms today. We're going to go over Q Global, and then we're going to talk about Q Interactive. So first, we're going to go over Q Global, and this is going to be our platform where there are many assessments that you have access to. From what I understand, many of you may have already been using Q Global and familiar with it. Others may be new to the platform. So we're going to go ahead and get started going over these materials that are copyright protected. While this is being recorded for your organization, use of this outside of this training environment is prohibited, as these materials are protected. We're going to go over the platform of Q Global, and I'm going to show you how to make a few customized options to your account that should help you use the account better for your preferences. We're going to go through and I'm going to show you how to create an examinee, assign an assessment, and then there are 3 administration options that are available within Q Global. So I'm going to review each of those options with you, and then finally show you how to generate reports and view some support resources. Now, I actually like to begin the training by showing you the training modules that you have access to. And I'd like to go ahead and let me see if I can access the chat while we're in this here together. I want to share these with you all. And this is going to be the way that you can access not only our technical support team, going to go ahead and include our technical support number there, but also this is how you can access the materials that I'm showing you right now. I've just included them all here for you as a reference. I'll include it again at the end of the training. But the platform that we're looking at here is Q Global, and that link I've included within the chat box, but I'm going to show you how you can get to these resources within the platform as well. Now, the Q Global training modules that I'm showing you here, it's going to give you the opportunity to take a look at any of the material that we cover today. So while we're reviewing this right now, rest assured you're going to be able to go back and revisit anything that we go over together. So for example, this first video shows how to create an examinee, how to assign assessments, and then the 3 different administration options I want to go over with you, as well as reporting. So again, you'll be able to go here after our training session today if you'd like to revisit any of these processes. Okay, the first thing I'd like you to do is sign into your Q Global account. If you were able to get set up with your username and password prior to the session, you're going to go to the Q Global website, which I have listed here at the top, qglobal.pearsonassessments.com, and sign in with your username and password. And I'll give everybody a moment to get to the website here. Now, I do want to point out that your username and your password are both case sensitive. So if your username is lowercase or uppercase, a combination of the both, just be sure to enter it exactly as it was created so that you can sign in. And then I also want to point out that if you need help recovering your username or creating a new password, if you've forgotten your password, you can click on this link here, Need Help Signing In, and you'll be able to either recover your username by having it sent to your email, or you can go through the process of creating a new password. And I also want to mention that your administrative team and also Pearson's technical support don't have access to your password for security purposes. So if you need to ever reset your password throughout the year, if you ever forget it, just go here to the home page and you can click on this link and create a new password if you need to. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed here. Again, if you have any questions about your login information, as our team was sharing and your admins were sharing, if you could please hold those questions for another call. And if you're not able to sign in right now, if you'll just watch the presentation and follow along until you do have access to that username and password. All right. Now, when you sign into the platform, the first thing I want to point out here is that it's going to say Digital Assessment Library Account at the top of your account. So for those of you who may have been working with Q Global before or in another setting, we want to make sure that you're signing into your new Digital Assessment Library account that your organization has purchased for you. And this is how you can verify. When you sign in, you'll see that icon of the books in the Digital Assessment Library listed there. Now, I'd like to show you how to customize your platform to make it a little bit more user-friendly for you. Here, this is your homepage when you sign in to Q Global. And the first thing that you'll want to take a look at here is the My Accounts button. So for those of you who are signed in, go ahead and click on that My Account button. And then here under your account tab, we're going to choose the Edit button at the top left. And even for those of you who may have used Q Global previously, hopefully you'll be learning some new tips during this training that you can apply. So after we choose Edit, click here for the default examiner, and then you can select your name from the drop-down list. And the reason this is helpful is when you select your name as the default examiner, going forward for all of those fields where you may need to select your name, it's already going to be populated for you. After you've made any changes that you need to, click Save. And then we're going to go back to the home screen, which you can always access by clicking on that home button at the top left of your screen. Okay, the next thing I want to show you how to do is how to arrange this dashboard that you're looking at here. Now, on my screen, I can see these are going to be student records. So whenever I create a profile for an examinee, it's going to be listed here. So here I see I have 3 students that I've created records for. And there are different column titles listed here. System ID, this is an internal platform number associated with the examinee ID, which is a number that you will enter for your student, and then additional information related. Now, this may not be particularly helpful information for you to see every time that you sign into your platform. Perhaps you'd want to see the examinee's name listed first or other information. The way that you can customize what you see here on your dashboard is by clicking on this grid icon here. So go ahead and click here at the bottom left of this table. And then you'll see the visible columns that you have in front of you, which you can move from your visible columns over here to the right, which are the columns that you don't see on your dashboard. So for example, if system ID is not very helpful for you to see every day, you can click on this arrow here to the right and it will move it to your invisible columns so that you don't see it listed on your dashboard. You can also add in any fields that might be helpful for you. So for example, if I wanted to add modified by or any of the fields here on the left, I can click to add those to my visible columns. And finally, you can adjust the order of the columns by dragging on the left here and just rearranging the order. So if you wanted the name of your examinee to be presented first, you could just drag last name up to the top of your visible columns. And then go ahead and select OK once you're done making your selections. And then that way you'll have a dashboard that is more appropriate for the information that you would like to see. All right, let's take a look at how you're going to create an examinee. The first thing that you're going to do is click on from the examinee tab here, the new examinee button. And you can follow along if you're signed in. After you click on New Examinee, you're going to enter some basic demographic information for your student here. This examinee ID field is going to be unique to your district. So just reach out to your admin team and ask them what number they would like you to enter here for the examinee ID. Sometimes that's a student ID number or however they might organize their records. There's also additional information you can enter. So there's detailed information that you can enter under the evaluation and history tabs. But just to get started, you can enter this information here and then click Save. Now, once we've created our examinee, we're going to assign a new assessment by clicking on the checkmark box next to the student's name. So here I would click on the checkmark box here listed to the left of my student, and then I'm going to click on the Assign New Assessment tab. Now, one feature I want to show you all here is that we have an option to select favorites. So you can search for an assessment name in the search field, or you can scroll through the list. But if there are assessments that you're using frequently, you can select the star next to that assessment's name, and it's going to save it for you in this My Favorites tab. And then going forward, whenever you go to assign a new assessment to your student, you're going to automatically be prompted with your My Favorites tab, and it will have that collection listed here below. And also, I want to note that if you are using the My Favorites tab and you're not seeing the list of another assessment you might be searching for, it could be because it's under the All Assessments tab. So I just want to point out that if you do use this star to highlight a favorite, just recognize that your favorites will be under this tab, and then you may need to click on the All Assessments tab if you're looking for an assessment that you don't typically use. Now, to assign that test, you're going to click on the radio button next to the assessment. So here, for example, I'm going to click on the BASC-3 PRS for an adolescent, and then click Assign. After you click Assign, it's going to show you the options that you have for administration. Now, not every test has all three options, but I wanted to show you an example where all three options are included so that you could become familiar with each process. So for example, here we have the paper form manual entry. This is where you're entering responses from a paper test that you've administered. We have the in-person on-screen option. And this is where you're going to present the test on your computer screen for the examinee to complete. And then finally, we have the remote on-screen option where you would send a secure email to the respondent with the test link that they would be able to then click on and complete. And I'm going to show you an example of each of these. So the first I want to take a look at is the on-screen option. So this is where you may have a student or a respondent in your office, and they're going to complete the examination or the screener on your computer screen. So here we would click on this option for in-person online, and then we're going to select this if you would like. This is an option to activate a test session lock. And what this will do is if you click this checkmark box, when you go to launch the assessment, it's going to launch the assessment in a new window, and it will prevent the examinee from exiting the exam and accessing anything else on your computer. So this way you can just use this test session lock to lock them in that exam screen. Click on the Launch Assessment button, and then you're going to see a review of the options of how to begin the assessment and also how to exit out of that test session lock. You'll click Begin, and then it's going to open up the test on your computer. Now, if the test has an option of different languages to present in, you would be able to select the language option here at the top right of the screen, and then continue through the test using the arrows at the bottom right. Now, as you proceed through the test, for some of our tests, there's a progress bar at the top, which will show where they are in the test process and also provide instructions going forward in whichever language that you've selected. You would proceed through the test items using the arrow at the bottom of the screen. So here's an example of what the test may look like. And then after they've completed the assessment, they're going to see this screen pop up. So this is how they know that they're done with the test. And then you can go ahead and exit out of that test session lock to get back to your Q Global account. You're also automatically signed out of your Q Global account for security. Okay, let's take a look at our next option, which is sending a secure email link to the test respondent. So this is going to be our remote on-screen administration option. So again, starting from the beginning, here we are on our home screen. If we want to assign a new assessment to our student, we're going to click on the checkmark box next to our student's name, select the Assign New Assessment button. Here, I'm going to choose my Basque PRS. And if our admins could help us with muting, and I will unmute myself. Just a quick reminder for everybody to keep yourself. Okay, thank you. All right, so we've chosen the Basque PRS. I'm going to click Assign. And now we have our remote on-screen option. I'm going to click this link here, and this is where we're sending the email to the test respondent. So I'm going to enter the individual's name here. I would enter their first and last name. Down below, this option is going to notify me when the assessment has been completed. So I'm going to be sending them an email with a link to the assessment. And this is going to let me know that they've completed it, which is nice as to have a reminder. That way you don't have to keep checking in on the system to see if they've completed the test. You'll receive a reminder. You can also add other individuals' names here if you'd like them to be notified. And there are instructions here to use a comma between email addresses. So if I had another colleague that I wanted notified when this assessment had been completed, I could enter their email here as well. Now I'm going to go to the Continue to Email button. And here you have two options. You can either copy the link for the assessment here and include it in your own email that you may be sending from your school email account, or you can send the test directly from Q Global by selecting this option here. So if you choose to create the email within Q Global, you're going to enter the respondent's email address. And then we have templates available. So we have automatically a template that will be populated below, but we also have additional options that you can check out here, including templates available in Spanish. You can customize this template by just typing directly in the body of the message here. And if there's a message that you would like to frequently use and have available, let's say you have a line that you want to enter, such as please complete within this week, or anything else that you'd like to send out repeatedly, you can choose this save as new option down here to create your own custom template. And then going forward, you would be able to select it from this drop-down menu here with the templates. That way you can just use the formatting and wording that you're comfortable with and quickly send it to that individual. When you're ready to send the email, click the Send Email button, and this is what an example will look like. So they would receive an email from Q Global and asking them to complete the questionnaire, and it will include the link to the assessment. So when they click on this link, it's going to take them to the Basque test that we were just looking at previously. So it will provide them with the option to choose a language if it's available for that assessment, and then instructions of how to continue through the test. Okay, so that was our remote on screen. Here is the third option, which is the manual entry. This is if you have administered an assessment by paper, and now you're using Q Global to score that assessment. So here we are, and this is our manual entry option. If we click on this option here, we're going to then go to create administration. At the top, there are two tabs, an overview tab and an item entry tab. On the overview tab, you're going to be entering some basic demographic information down below that may be related to their school or environment. There's detailed information you can scroll down on the screen to see. The examiner field that I have highlighted here, my name is already pre-populated because I made that selection earlier to have my name listed as the default examiner. But if I needed to add a different name as the examiner, I could click here on this pencil icon and then enter a different name. Otherwise, I am going to go to the item entry tab here at the top right and start entering the scores for that paper administration. Now at the top, we have these two fields here you can select to turn on, and it's going to show the item text and the input key next to each item. And this can be helpful when you're entering those responses. That way you have some more or additional accuracy. After you enter all of the scores, you're then going to proceed to reports. Here, you'll want to save your updates. This is also a field that you can use if you need to enter these scores and then come back and enter the scores or complete the scores at a later time. But you'll want to save your updates here and then go ahead and proceed to the reports. Sorry, let me go back one screen there. So after we choose our save updates, you're then going to go ahead and continue by proceeding to the reports using this button here. Okay, now let me show you how to generate reports. So when you're ready to generate reports, here we are back on our home screen again. You're going to click on the row that shows your student's name, and that's going to open up their detailed profile information here, and it's going to include all of the assessments that you've administered them. Down below, you'll see the name of the assessments. You'll see the type of delivery. So here is an example of a manual entry, our on-screen administration, and our remote on-screen administration. And then you can see the status, whether a report has been generated, if it's in progress, or if it's ready for reporting. So this is a good example here of our remote on-screen administration. This is a BASC-3 PRS that I would have sent out to a respondent to complete. And when they did complete it, now I can see that it is ready for reporting. So this status column is another way that you can see if that assessment has been completed. So I'm going to choose the checkmark box next to this assessment and then click Generate Report. If there are multiple options for your product, as we can see here for the BASC, there's a report. There's also a report with intervention recommendations. You can choose whichever report you would like and then make any additions or configurations to that report in our next screen. So here when we go to create the report, here you have the option of either a PDF or a Word document. A Word document is helpful because you can edit and customize that report. And then you can include whatever information that you would like here, as well as if you need to adjust the confidence level or other configurations according to what your district is used to using. Make those adjustments here and then select Create Report. Here's an example of the beginning of a report for the BASC-3. Okay, now let's take a look at our resource library. The resource library within Q Global is where you're going to go to access many different types of helpful support materials. So from your home screen, the resource library is at the top of your screen. And when you click on the resource library, your screen, if you're following along, your screen may not look like mine right now. You may see many folders on your screen. This view button here will allow you to change your view to either see a list like I have on my screen or a folder view, which would just show you larger folders across your screen. Now, the first folder I want to show you is the About Q Global folder. This is going to be where you have some resource materials, including the link that I shared with you in the chat. So here under the About Q Global folder, we have a training resources folder. And within this folder, there is a Q Global tutorial collection. This collection is going to include videos and information about different steps with your account and also some of the assessments. And the overview videos here, specifically the DALS video, this Digital Assessment Library for Schools video, is going to be where you can access the tutorial modules that I was showing you at the beginning of this section. So within the chat, I shared the process that I just reviewed with you of how to get here by going to the resource library and the different folders to click on to access this tutorial collection. And I've also included the link. That way you can just go directly to the link for this video and you can bookmark that as a reference. And again, that's going to go through and show you all of the steps that we just went through together. So especially for those of you who were not able to access your accounts today, you'll be able to go back and revisit this information using these videos as well, in addition to our recording today. Now, because you all have a DALS account, which is the Digital Assessment Library account, you also have access to printable forms. This is so we're in our resource library, and this is the folder we were just looking at, the About Q Global folder. Below that, we have our printable forms. So for example, here I could click on the printable psych forms folder. And then I'm going to choose my BASC-3 PRS-A. And here you have the option to download. So this way you would be able to download this form and then print it out. Okay, going back to my resource library tab one more time here. Scrolling down, this is going to be where you have access to the different test folders. So below our About Q Global folder and below our printable folders, here we have the products. And for example, if I wanted to click on my Self 5 Metalinguistics test folder here, I'm going to see the materials available to me, including the stimulus book, the examiner manuals, technical manuals. There are different materials available for different tests, so you can check those out individually after our training. Here, just to show you what it looks like to open up a stimulus book, you're going to proceed into the book after you have adjusted the size. So if you are needing to present a stimulus book on your computer screen, you're going to want to click on this button here so that you have the book displayed in an appropriate size. And we have guidelines related to this on our website if you need any assistance. You can also call our team to review this. And then you're going to proceed into the STEM book here using this forward button. You'll have the subtests listed that are hyperlinked, so you can just click to go directly to whichever subtest you're working with. And then you're going to proceed into the subtest using the forward button here at the bottom right. Now, when you're done navigating through a subtest, you're going to click on the home button to go back to that subtest list so that you can choose another subtest. Finally, just pointing out here on our home screen again, all of these materials that I was just reviewing with you are under the Resource Library tab. So this is going to be where you can go to view the tutorial modules to review all of this information. It's also going to be where you can access those printable forms and access the examiner manuals and technical manuals and STEM books for each of the products. Now, that wraps up our Q Global section. And before we continue, I want to check in with my colleagues and see, were there any questions that were unresolved that we could address at this time or that you'd like to address with the group, or anything that you'd like to cover on Q Global before we continue on to Q Interactive?
Laura, Kristen, Natalie, Kim, Tammy, and I are managing the Q&A. Most of the Q&A questions are fairly specific to the platform at hand. I haven't seen anything kind of sneak by that hasn't been answered, but please everybody know that we don't have the answer and there's a bit of a delay in response. It's because we're researching it and making sure that you have the right answer. Other than that, I don't see anything out. I don't see any questions outstanding. Pearson team, Tennessee team.
I'm not seeing anything. I do see just some questions around access. I do see one that's just popped in, and Judy, I may be on the wrong track, but just a quick reminder, if there are any access questions, I'll drop the Pearson technical support line in the chat. Just give them a quick call after you get off of this call today, or call right now. I'm sure they're probably manning that call as well, that call line. Today, we're really talking all about using the system itself. So if you're not able to get access into the system, we definitely want to help you and support you with that. But today's call would probably not be the best place for that. I also see a question about some possible tests coming up, right? Like are there some potential tests coming into the system? So Pearson may need to do some research on that or address that. But other than that, I'll turn it back over to the Pearson partners.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, everyone. Sounds good. I appreciate all of our colleagues working in the chat and everyone working together to address these questions. We have such a large group today. I'm very happy to have you all here. Okay, let's now jump into Q Interactive. So for those of you who are new to Q Interactive, this is going to be our platform that specifically uses 2 iPads to administer tests. So it's going to be administering those one-on-one tests using 2 iPads. If you don't have access to your iPads today or your login credentials, that's absolutely fine. You can watch this presentation today to become familiar with it. And then when and if you do get access, then you'll already have a head start to get going with the platform. So I'd like you to go ahead, for those of you who are able to uh, follow along today with your iPads, make sure you have your Q Interactive username and password. This is going to be separate from your Q Global username and password. And in addition to your computer, to have your two iPads powered on, and then also the internet password. This I have actually set up to guide you through those steps. However, because we had limited time to work with you all today, we asked that you all went ahead and went through the iPad setup steps prior to our training session today, to go ahead and connect those iPads to internet, download all of the test content so that we could just jump into the material today. Okay, so here we have our Q Interactive platform. This is an example in a setting where you have two iPads. You're going to have one iPad that faces you. This is the practitioner device. This is where you're able to navigate through the test questions. You can take notes. You're going to score and proceed from one test item to the next on the iPad that faces you. And then the second iPad will be the client-facing device. And this is placed in front of the examinee so that they can see the test stimulus information. And then also they can make their selections depending on the test by tapping on the iPad screen. And I'm going to show you some examples of what that looks like. Now, similar to Q Global, we also have tutorial videos for Q Interactive. And this, again, is just a preview to show you that you will be able to go to these tutorials after our training today and go through and revisit the information that I'm going to go over with you today. Here at the top, we have a section for administrators. As you scroll down below this, you'll see a section for practitioners. And this is where you're going to see all of the training information for you on our Q Interactive platform. So we're going to go through quite a bit of information together right now. And then I, again, just like to highlight this for you all to let you know you're going to be able to go back and revisit anything that I'm showing you here today by going to these tutorials. So here we are again, our Q Interactive platform is when you're administering those one-to-one assessments using two iPads. So because you're using both Q Global and Q Interactive, I just wanted to highlight the difference for you here. Q Interactive, the way you can kind of think of these as being separate is that Q Interactive are those interactive assessments where you're using your iPads. So just to differentiate between Q Global and Q Interactive. And here we have an example where the examinee is making their selection by tapping on the iPad screen. Here are the tests that we have in Q Interactive. Most recently, we just added DCAS Advanced, and upcoming, we are going to have WIMS 5 added to the platform as well. So here you can see, according to different domains, the tests that you may be working with according to your discipline. And when you sign into the platform, you may not see all of these tests. You may see a certain selection of them, and that just depends on your license type. So when your administrators create your user accounts for you, then you may have access to certain tests that are speech and language specific or psychology specific, academic, just depending on the type of tests that you're working with. And this is just to give you a preview of all of the tests that we have on the platform. Now, to go over the workflow of Q Interactive, the way you can think about it is in a three-step process. So you're going to begin on your computer. This is where you're going to sign into the Q Interactive platform, and you're going to create a profile for your student, assign an assessment, and then you're going to press a button that sends the assessment to your iPads where testing takes place. So after you have sent that assessment to your iPads, you're then going to take the iPads and administer the test. And you can administer the test wherever you need to. As far as internet connectivity is concerned, you won't need an internet connection while you are actually administering the test. So this can be very helpful if you are working in a location where there may be no internet available, or where you have low connection, or sometimes there's just a part of the building where there's low connection. So it's really nice that you can administer the tests and the iPads connect to each other without needing the internet network connection. So we're going to go through and take a look at these features together. Again, I just want to highlight here, as I'm mentioning the internet connection, all of those settings, your iPads do need to be set up to be configured according to our security guidelines. And all of that information is what we asked everyone to complete prior to this training session. If you did not have the opportunity to do so, there is a video in the tutorial modules that I shared with you that is listed as iPad settings, and it will go through all of those settings together. So you want to make sure that your iPads are set up and configured appropriately before you begin testing. Now, after you have administered the test on your iPads, you're going to want to return to a location where you have internet access again. And I'm just going to check in with my admins one more time. If you could please mute lines, I can hear some background, and then I'll unmute myself. Okay, thank you so much. All right, and so once you're done administering that test, you're going to come back to a location where you do have internet access, because you're going to press a button on the iPad that says that will sync the information back to the website, where you will go for your third step to sign back into the website, and you'll be able to see the information from the test that you just administered. You'll be able to view your digital protocol. You'll be able to generate reports, and all of that will be done on the website. So again, just a quick review of the process. You're going to start on your computer, create a profile for your student, assign an assessment, and then press a button that sends the assessment to the iPads. Then you'll administer the tests on the iPads. When you're finished testing, you'll press a sync button to send that information back to the website, and then you'll sign in on the website to immediately be able to generate reports. Okay, so let's start with our first part of the process here by signing in to the website. So if you do have your username and password, go ahead and go to the US website, which is us.qiactive.com. And you're going to enter your username and password and sign in. And just like Q Global, your username and password are both case sensitive. So again, if your username is all lowercase like mine is here, just be sure to enter it exactly as it was created so you can sign in. If you have forgotten your username, you can click on this link for Q Interactive to recover that information. And again, for your password, if you ever forget your password throughout the year, just go here to the home site of Q Interactive, click on this forgot password link, and then you'll be guided through a series of steps to create a new password. So from here, we would go ahead and click to sign in. And again, for those of you who are not able to access that username and password information for today's training, if you could just watch the training, and then when you do gain access to those credentials or access to iPads, then you'll be able to revisit the videos and go through this process. Now, I want to go through an overview of what the website looks like. So here at the top of our screen, we have 5 tabs. We have the dashboard tab. This is going to be where you see all of your most recent activity and it's going to be where you go to create a profile for your student or where you go to practice. This button, this blue Quick Create button, is going to be what you use to create the profiles for your actual students. So this is going to be when you're ready to create a profile for your student and assign them an assessment, you're going to be using this Quick Create button. Whenever you want to practice, however, like today or any time that you want to practice, you're going to use the practice assessment feature here. This you can use an unlimited amount of times. You can create multiple practice students of different ages so that you can work with different test batteries and practice them until you become comfortable with them. Typically, the response that we receive is that people like to practice about 2 to 3 times before they're ready to work with an actual student. So just to show you that this is a feature that you're going to use whenever you want to practice. That blue Quick Create button is just for your actual students. That is where all of the data is kept for your district and all of those profiles for your actual students. The Clients tab is going to show you all of your examinee profiles that you've created. So if you're new to the platform today, then you won't see any information listed there. But here I have an example of what it looks like when you have different students that you've created their profiles. You'll be able to access their information here. The Batteries tab is going to show you all of the tests that you have access to. For those of you who are following along, when you click on the Batteries tab, if you don't see any batteries listed or you have a message indicating that there are no batteries available, that means that you don't have a license applied to your account. And I just want to point this out for our admin team as well. If anybody doesn't see the list of the tests on their screen, then that means that they don't have a license applied. So you'll need to go through and make sure that you apply a license to their account so that they can access those test batteries. Next is our Assessments tab. This is going to be where we click to send our assessment to the iPad. It's going to show you different information depending on where you are in the test process. And we're going to go through this step by step. I'm just kind of quickly moving through these tabs to give you an overview. But in a moment, we're going to go through and create a practice student together so that we can navigate through this platform. The last tab, though, I'd like you to click on and take a look at here. There's some more detail I want to show you. Under our Support tab, we have user guides available, and we also have the link to the video tutorial. So this is the link that I shared in the chat. If my colleagues have also been sharing along the way, if not, I'm going to share the links and how you get to them again at the end of our training. But this is how you navigate to the link within the platform. So here under the Support tab, this is where we have the link to the full video tutorial that I was showing you just a moment ago that shows you all of the different Q Interactive videos showing you how to create an examinee, assign an assessment, send it to your iPad, go through different features on the iPad, how to generate reports. So all of the information that we're covering in this second section of our training today for Q Interactive is going to be included in this tutorial link. Now, under the Support tab here, if you scroll down on the Support tab, you're going to see that we have these detailed test tutorial videos. For example, here are videos for the Wyatt 4. So while we are going over general functionality of how to use Q Interactive right now, if you'd like to see some more detailed information of what it looks like to go through decoding fluency, for example, you can click on this video, watch a short video that shows you what it looks like on the iPads navigating through this subtest, including any of the important features or tools to use during that test. And again, these are under the Support tab. When you scroll down on the Support tab past the user guides and the tutorial video, you'll see these test-specific videos. Now, if you go back to the top of the Support tab, Here at the top left, you're going to see a link for test materials. This is where you're going to access all of your digital manuals. If you click on this link for test materials, you'll see here, you'll have your examiner manuals, your technical manuals, any audio pronunciation guides that you may need to listen to before administering the test for the first time. You'll be able to access those materials here. So for example, if I click on the Bracken manual, it's going to open the manual in a new window for me. And I can use this magnifying glass here at the top left to search for a keyword. You can also go through and click anywhere within the chapters and table of contents here. This is all hyperlinked, so you can go directly to that location within the manual. So it's really helpful to have a digital manual so that you can quickly get to whichever section that you're looking for. If you are following along, please note that this manual opened up in a new window. So go ahead and close that or minimize it so you can go back to the Q Interactive platform. And let's go ahead and create a practice assessment. So I'd like you to click on the dashboard tab here at the top left. And again, we have so many people joining us today with different abilities to access the platform right now. So again, if you're not able to sign into the platform, if you could just watch the training, and then when you do have access to those credentials, then you'll be able to sign in and go through this practice process later. So from our dashboard tab, here I'd like you to click on the practice assessment button. And again, this is the button that you're going to use anytime that you want to practice any of the examinations that you have on your account. Here, I'd like you to click on the Create Practice Client button. And this is what it looks like when you're creating a profile for your actual examinees as well. So the practice feature that we have is going to be similar to what it looks like when you're going through the live testing session. The difference is that scoring is going to be disabled when you're in practice mode. Here on this screen, enter a first name and a last name for your student. This client ID field that's listed here, this is a required field. So you do need to enter something for your practice student. You could just enter the number 1 if you would like. But this field, you're going to be entering whatever number your district would like you to enter for your examinee when you're creating those profiles for your actual examinees. So again, for your practice student, you can enter whatever number you would like in the client ID field. And when you're creating the profiles for your actual students, refer to your administrators to see what number they would like you to enter for this field. For the date of birth, go ahead and choose this date of birth for your student right now, with 2017 as the year. And the reason that I'd like you to choose this is because all of our tests are age range specific. So if you click through here and accidentally have a date of birth of 2025, then you're going to receive an error message when you go to choose a test, most likely because it will be outside the age range for the student. So go ahead and enter a date of birth for the student with 2017. Select a gender from the drop-down menu, and then choose Save Practice Client. Now, I also want to point out that you'll want to make sure that you have the correct date of birth for your student when you're creating those profiles for your actual students, because when you begin the assessment on the iPads, scoring is going to occur as you're going through the test, and it's going to be based on the date of birth as well as the date that you begin the assessment. And you're not able to edit the date of birth after you administer the test. So you'll want to make sure that you have their date of birth listed correctly in their profile before you begin testing. Now, after you save your profile for the student, the system is automatically going to navigate you to the second step, which is to choose a test battery. Here you can scroll through the list on your screen, or you can search for the name of a test. Here at the top, you can click and type in Wyatt 4 if you would like, or you can just scroll down to the Wyatt 4. And I'll show you some options of how you can make your test selections. So I'm going to type in 4 and then select Go. When you scroll to whichever test you'd like to practice with, I'd like you to click on the arrow to the left of the test, and this is going to expand and show you all of the subtests that comprise this battery. So here we have a few different options. So before you click on anything, let me review the options with you, and then we'll go through and make some selections together. Now, the first thing that you could do is add the entire battery. So if you wanted to add all 20 subtests of the Wyatt 4, you would click one time on this battery. And here we have that it's going to add all 20 subtests for this Wyatt 4 battery. That's one option. A second option is if you would like to work with composites. We have these drop-down menus that you can select. For example, you would select a grade for the Wyatt 4, and then whichever composites you would like. Here I'm going to choose grade 3 and the reading and written expression composites. And now I'm going to click one time on this add button here, which instead of the full 20 subtests, I now see that there are just the 4 subtests that are included in these composites. So when I click add, it's just going to include those subtests. Now the final option is the one that you may use most frequently, which is to just click the add button next to each individual subtest that you would like to include in your battery. So for example, here, I would click on the add button to the right of whichever subtest I would like to include. And I keep saying click one time on the add button because the platform is going to add the test as many times as you click on the button. So just as a quick note to you all, click one time on the button next to whichever test you would like to add. And this is what it's going to look like. After you click on the add button, you'll see the word added listed next to it. So now that I've reviewed those 3 options of adding either the entire battery, clicking here, or choosing composites first and then clicking the add button, or individual subtests, I'd like you to go ahead for today's purposes and click add next to each of these subtests. Now, if you have accidentally selected any other subtests or clicked on a button multiple times, I have built into this training how to address that because it's so common when people are using the platform for the first time. So I'll show you in a moment here how you can make an adjustment. And again, we're just choosing a couple of tests, and I'd like you to choose these. That way you have some set up and ready to go for after our training sessions so that you can go through and begin practicing and navigating through these tests. After you've made your selections, go ahead and scroll back to the top of your screen. And at the top of your screen, you're going to see a blue button that will list the number of subtests that you have chosen. So you can click on this button here if you want to remove any tests. So for example, here, if I accidentally selected multiple tests, let's say I have 40 tests listed here and I need to clear them out, I can click the remove button next to any test that I want to take out of my battery. So at this time, if there's anything that you'd like to remove, you can do so here. And you can also scroll back down to the Wyatt and choose to add those individual tests again if needed. When you're finished, we're going to be clicking on the next button here at the top right. So I'll give everybody just a moment to go through and make those selections, and then we'll continue. And if you don't have the Wyatt on your account currently, you can also select another test if needed. Here, we're going to go ahead and click to continue. The Y at 4 has a drop-down menu for a grade. Here, we'll go ahead and click a grade. Not every test requires a grade selection, but for the Y, you're going to choose a grade level. And then we'll click Next to continue. On this screen, you can configure the order of your battery. So if you wanted to reorder the tests, if you chose them in a different order, you could simply click on a test and drag it and drop it in a new location. And this is just showing you the functionality. You do need to administer the order and the way that they were standardized. And this is just showing you how you can adjust the order of the tests if needed, if you chose them in a different order. Here, we're going to go ahead and choose Next to continue. You have an option to save a custom battery. So if you would like, if there are tests that you're frequently administering to your students, you could enter a custom name for this battery and save it. Otherwise, for now, we're going to choose Next to proceed. And in the tutorial modules, there's a video to show you how to create a custom battery if you'd like to revisit that later. On this screen, enter a name for your assessment. We can just choose Y at 4 and then click Finish at the top right. This is going to take us now to our Assessments tab, where we have our assessments listed, and we're going to click on the Send to iPad button. So I'd like you to go ahead and click on that Send to iPad button, and then even if you don't have iPads ready today, the next time that you sign into a pair of iPads, then the test will be ready to go. So the test is associated with your username and password. So when you sign in on a set of iPads with your username and password, then that assessment is going to show up on the iPads for you. And so just to highlight that we have many safeguards to let you know that you're working in practice mode. This is going to say practice assessment and show this gray bar here to the left for a practice test. This is what a live test looks like. So here are 3 live examples, and then this is my practice assessment, just to give you a visual of what that looks like. So that's the entire process from our dashboard tab, where we created a practice student, assigned an assessment, and here we're clicking the Send to iPad button so that we can send that assessment to our iPads, and then we're ready to begin testing. So here we are at step 2. We have sent the assessment to our iPads, and now we're going to sign in on the iPads to begin working with our test. For those of you who were able to set up and prepare your iPads ahead of time, you're going to be able to sign in. If you did not have that opportunity, then there are going to be other steps that you would need to complete first to make sure that your iPads are set up to be according to our specifications and ready to deliver the test materials. However, if you were able to go through that process, go ahead and click on the Assess app to sign in again. You would have already gone through this process to download that test content. If you did not have that opportunity, then you can certainly watch the training from here. And then when you do have access to iPads, then you can go through and practice. When you sign into your iPads, I do want to point out this feature here at the top right. There is a United States option and a global option. You'll want to make sure that you have United States selected. If you have the global option selected, then you're going to receive an error message when you try to sign in. So just to let you all know, this feature here at the top right, make sure that it says United States, and then you can sign in with your username and password. So for those of you who are signing in, go ahead and type in your information here and sign in. And just to give you a preview of what those iPad screens are going to look like, your practitioner device is going to look like what we have here on the left. There's a sync button here at the top right. I'd like you to press that button once you sign in, and then it's going to show you your assessments that you've sent to the iPad. So here I have 3 assessments that I've sent to my iPad. The client iPad is going to show you a plain white screen, and this is what you're going to see before you begin testing. Now, there is a very faint gray bar on one side of the client iPad, and it's very faint on purpose so that it's not a distraction, but it's to help you know how to place the iPad in front of the examinee. You're going to place the iPad in front of the examinee where the gray bar is closest to them. And this way, we'll know that they'll see the stimulus information in the upright direction. So as you lift and turn an iPad around, the screen can reorient. And so this is just built in as a helpful guide to where you place the iPad in front of the student with that gray bar closest to them. You'll know that they're going to see the stimulus information in the upright direction. Now here we have the iPad for the examinee is going to be placed either flat on the table or raised at about a 45-degree angle, and that is going to be unique for each test. It's the same as the paper version of the test, whether that stimulus information should be presented flat or raised. And here in a moment, I'm going to show you a quick reminder of where you can access information to let you know if that iPad should be placed flat on the table or raised for the student. Now, if you have multiple assessments on your iPad, here I have 2 practice assessments, and then this is what a live test session looks like. You're just going to select the student that you're ready to begin testing. So if you have a practice assessment on your device, you can go ahead and select that student now. If you'd like to wait till after the training, you can do so as well. I'm going to be showing you a variety of tools and features that I've gathered from across many tests, but feel free to go through the tests that we've just selected together, going through the Wyatt if you would like at the same time. That way you can get some hands-on experience as well. So you're going to tap on the name of your student to begin the assessment. Here you're going to see their profile information. If you needed to adjust their date of birth, if it wasn't listed correctly before, you can edit it at this time. Again, as a reminder, you're not able to edit the date of birth after you begin testing. So you need to make sure that you have that correct date of birth listed. And then here down at the bottom, we have an estimate of about how long the test may take to administer, depending on the selection of subtests that you've chosen. Now, Q Interactive has about a 25 to 30% time savings versus paper administration. What that means to you is that if a test normally took you about an hour to administer by paper, that same test may take you about 45 minutes or less with Q Interactive. Once you aggregate that time savings across all of your assessments, it's really quite significant. And here we have just a guide to let you know about how long it may take you to administer the test that you've chosen. Here on the right is the battery. This would indicate the tests that you have added to your battery. You have the option to edit your battery, which I'll show you time permitting. And if we are not able to get to it, it is included in the tutorial modules that we shared with you. To begin the test, you're going to click on the Start button here at the top right. And that's going to take you to your first title card. So while you all may be looking at the Wyatt right now, here I have the Whisk 5 listed. And I've gathered some different tests so I can show you a variety of tools instead of just a couple of tools. And then that way, once you're done watching my screen, then you can add that to the tests that you're working with in front of you, so that you're going to have familiarity with many more tools than if you were just looking at 1 or 2 subtests. Here at the bottom right, this is the menu button. You're going to be using this very frequently. Here, if you tap on this button, the first thing I'd like you to do is tap on the I button, and this is your information button. This is going to show you a condensed summary of the administration rules for your test. So all of your examiner manuals and your technical manuals are back on the website under the support tab. But here on the iPad, we have also built in this very quick summary that you can access to review some relevant information. For example, here at the top, we have the materials that you'll need for the test, and it's going to give you a quick reminder if that client device, the iPad that's placed in front of the examinee, should be placed flat or raised. So here, as you're getting used to administering the test in this new format, I would recommend before you begin each subtest, just click on this I button. That way you can just quickly review the materials that you need and a reminder of the administration rules. So for this particular test, I would need my client device to be placed flat in front of the student, and then I also need the Wechsler design blocks for this block design test. Here you can click on the I button to minimize this window. You can also tap anywhere outside of the window and it will close. To proceed into the test, you're going to place your finger on the screen and swipe toward the left. So you are going to swipe on your screen to proceed into the test. You're going to keep swiping to move from one test item to the next. Once you have finished a subtest, you are going to just continue swiping on to the next subtest. So that's how you proceed through all of your test items, is by swiping toward the left on your screen. When you first enter a test, you may have instructions on your screen where you would read aloud the font in blue. Here I would read aloud any instructions and then click OK. The speech bubble is a feature I want to show you that is on all of your tests. You're going to tap on this speech bubble to see a list of responses to say, a list of instructions here to say in response to specific examinee behaviors. And here we have just this reminder again under the speech bubble. So you can tap on that speech bubble to access it and tap on it one more time to close this window. If you have a show picture button on your screen, you're going to tap on this to allow the stimulus image to be presented on the iPad in front of the student. So this iPad that we're looking at here is the practitioner device. This is what you're looking at. Here you can see the stimulus image on your screen. And when you press the show picture button, this is what it's going to look like on the iPad in front of the student. So here we can see that gray bar at the bottom is very important to make sure that we have the iPad facing the student in the correct direction. If there were words on the screen, it would be very obvious if it were upside down, but with a shape like this, you may not know which way is up or down immediately. And that's why we have this faint gray bar built in, again, placing the iPad to where that gray bar is closest to the student. Now going back to my iPad, my practitioner iPad, I want to show you the timer feature. So for tests where there is a time limit involved, we have a timer built into the platform. You're going to press play to begin the timer counting. And then when the item is completed, you're going to press stop. That time is going to be captured for you automatically in the digital protocol. If you need to adjust the timer, you can use this gear button here and then adjust the timer up or down as needed, or you can reset the timer if you need to. That way you make sure that you have the correct time captured for that item. Here I have a video to show you constructed design. This is going to be where, for the WISC 5, if you were placing the blocks in front of the student and they are looking at this image on their screen, they're going to be configuring the blocks to try and match the stimulus image. Once they're done, you're going to indicate here on your screen what they have configured. So for example, if I want to indicate that they have populated a red triangle, I'm going to tap one time on my screen in the corner of the square that I want that red triangle to appear. If they have a red square, I'm going to double tap. So here I'll tap twice quickly in a row to indicate a red square. So this is how you're going to indicate whatever the student has configured with their blocks. If you need to clear out any selection, you're just going to double tap again. And as a quick workaround, if they happen to create their response and it's a correct response, you can just tap one time here on the target image on your screen, and it will automatically populate below. So just as a quick time saver, if they have the correct response, tap one time on that target image and it will populate for you below. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is assign a score for the item. There are a couple of methods by which scoring occurs. One is if you have a score point button on your screen. So here, for example, I can tap on 0 points or 2 points. You're going to tap on the button to assign that score for your student, and then it's going to show up at the top right of your screen. Now, again, just a quick note, the difference between practice assessments and the live test assessments are that scoring is disabled, and so you're not able to generate any reports based off of practice student data. So while you will not see a score show up here while you're practicing, practice is to get used to navigating through the test, using the different tools built into the system, but you won't see any scores show up here. When you are administering a live test, you're going to see that score populate at the top right. So that's if you have score point buttons on your screen. Here is a different test that I've chosen to show you where the scores are captured automatically when the student makes their selection by tapping on the iPad in front of them. So this is my WISC-5 matrix reasoning subtest. Here, I'm going to press this show picture button, and then the stimulus image is displayed on the student facing iPad. So here, this is what they see in front of them. I'm going to ask them to make their selection. Now let's say they tap on item response number 3 here. When they tap on the screen, I'm going to go back to my iPad now. On my iPad, I can see that they have selected this response, which happens to be the correct response for this test item. It's going to be highlighted with a check mark in green. I'm going to be provided some feedback down below, and we have responsive feedback. So if they provide you with a correct response, you'll see feedback to say for a correct response. If they choose an incorrect response, you'll have incorrect response feedback prompted for you below. Finally, the score will be captured automatically. So their score will automatically show up at the top right once they make their selection on the iPad. Now, if you need to reset this item, if there's a self-correct, for example, you have the ability to deselect anything on your side. So for example, I can deselect this item here by tapping on it on my screen. Let's say, for example, you ask the student to make their selection and they tap every picture on the screen and they're all highlighted on your screen and it's an incorrect response. If it were a teaching item or sample, an item where it's appropriate to reset for the student, you can simply tap on your side to deselect any image that they've chosen and then ask them to make their selections again. One final example I want to show you on scoring. This test is the SELF-5 following directions test. And this is where the examinee is asked to make multiple selections. Now, one of the really nice things about the Assess app is that it captures the order in which the student touches the screen. So for example, here, I'm going to press this Show Picture button. This image is going to be displayed for the student. They'll make their selections. In this case, they're asked to make 2 selections. This is what it looks like if they tap on these images in an incorrect order. So here, they're highlighted in red with an X. In the response field down below, I can see their incorrect response highlighted in red. And I have incorrect response feedback listed below. And you can scroll down on the iPad screen to see more information. So this is what it looks like for an incorrect response. Now, If you need to reset this type of item, just click here on this minus symbol and it will remove the selection. Now, let me show you what it looks like if they choose these same two items, but in the correct order, then it's going to show up as a correct response. So again, the app captures the order in which they're touching the selections, and then it's presented to you here on the screen, and their score will be captured automatically for these type of items and shown at the top right. Okay, the next feature I want to show you is the microphone. When we swipe onto an item where there's a major verbal component for that test, you're going to see this red dot appear at the top left of your screen, letting you know that audio is being captured. And this is a tool that's built in so that when you are reviewing your items later, you can listen to your students' response and then make any adjustments that you may need to at that time or indicate their response. If there are certain tests that you are entering their responses or scoring post-administration, you'll be able to listen to their responses. And one of the nice things about this is that the audio is captured on an item by item basis. So when you swipe onto the item, you'll see the red dot appear. The audio will begin. As you swipe to the next item, the audio stops, and then a new recording begins on the next item. And then when you're going back and you're reviewing your items later, instead of scrolling through 45 minutes worth of audio, you're going to be able to listen to just the few seconds or minutes you were on that item with your student so that you can listen to that playback. At the bottom of your screen, for certain tests, you may see this caret mark. And here you're going to tap on this icon to open up a response field here. Here, this is where you're going to write in your student's response verbatim. So this is not for taking notes. I'll show you where to take notes here in a moment. This is just for writing your student's response. And whatever you write here is going to be captured for you automatically in the digital protocol. You can also type in this field as well. The image is not showing right now on this particular screen capture that I have, but you do have the ability to tap to select a keyboard as well. So you can write with your finger or with a stylus, or you can use a keyboard to type also. If you need more space, click on the plus symbol and it will open up more space for you. If you need to delete anything that you've written, just click on this trash bin icon. And these features are repeated throughout the platform. So when you need more space to write, you'll see a plus symbol. If you want to delete something, you can click on the trash bin icon. Here at the top right, we have some recording buttons. And these buttons are to indicate certain events that occur. For example, here I have a DK button for I don't know, NR button for no response, and so on. If you have an I don't know, you can tap on this DK button, and then a score point 0 will automatically be assigned. And this is captured for you in the digital protocol as well. Now, if you don't remember what these letters stand for example, if you're wondering what the Q stands for, you can go to the menu button down at the bottom right of your screen. And when you select the lowercase I information that I was showing you a little while ago, it's going to list out any of these contextual event buttons that you have will be listed there for you. So it would say Q equals query, for example. So again, that's under the menu button here at the bottom right, and then selecting that lowercase information button. And you can tap to select these or deselect them as well. The flag button that shows at the top right of your items is a feature that you can use if you want to highlight a particular item. So for example, if there's an item that you want to go back and listen to audio recording later, or it's something that you want to highlight for yourself, you can just tap on this flag button. And then when you go to review your items later, you'll see a picture of a flag next to any items that you selected it for. And this is just a nice way to just quickly highlight an item for yourself. Maybe it's something that you're going to be scoring post-administration. And this is just a digital way that you can quickly highlight that item. Okay, let's take a look now at taking notes. So when you are in the middle of test administration, you can take notes. You can also take notes while you're reviewing your items later. The way that you take notes is by using the menu button at the bottom right. When you tap on this button, instead of our lowercase I that we've already looked at, now we're going to be tapping on the notepad feature here, which is the paper and pencil icon. That's going to open up a notepad on your screen and allow you to take notes. So here, again, you're writing with your finger, with a stylus. You can also type in this field as well. And the default notepad that comes up is this yellow notepad, and it's going to be organized by the item level. So it will say the name of the item at the top of the note. You can organize your notes if you would like by clicking on this button that I have highlighted. This can be helpful later when you're reviewing your notes. If you would like, you can click to organize by general or subtest or item level. For example, let's say I wanted to take notes about the overall experience for this particular test. I could use the general category to take those notes. If I wanted to take notes just about something that happened during this particular subtest, choose the subtest. And again, it's just an optional feature to color coordinate and organize your notes. So here I'm going to choose general. It's going to change the color of the notepad. Now it says general at the top. That's just a nice quick visual reminder to me about what this note is referring to. Now, we've built in this opacity feature here. You can drag this toggle switch to the left, and then you'll be able to see through the notepad to see the test content beneath it. So this can be helpful when you're reviewing items. If you want to take a look at the information of the test item behind it, you can adjust that switch. We also have this icon here at the top that will allow you to move your notepad to a different location on your screen. Again, each of these features that I've chosen to highlight here are repeated throughout the platform. So when you learn them, you'll be able to apply them across the different tests that you're working with. So for example, I can drag the notepad over here to the bottom left. This can be helpful if you're right-handed or left-handed to move the notepad to a different area of the screen that's better for writing. Again, our plus symbol opens up more space to continue writing. So if I want to take additional notes, I'm going to click on the plus symbol here. It's going to open up another notepad for me, and I can keep taking my notes. So here it's opened up at the item level. I see listed at the top of my screen. If I want to highlight a note as being particularly important, I can click on the exclamation point. And finally, if I want to delete a note, I can click on that trash bin icon. When you're done taking notes, click done at the top right, and it will take you back into the test item. So this is showing you how you can take notes while you're administering the test. And again, you can also take notes after you've administered the test and you're reviewing your items. Okay, we are just moving through this training to try and fit both platforms in for you during this time. So I appreciate that my colleagues are working through the chat questions and your attention as we're going through getting an overview of these platforms before you have an opportunity to really get in there and practice. Now I want to show you some confirmation messages that you're going to see while you're administering the test. As you're proceeding from one test item to the next, let's say you need to go back to the previous item, you can swipe in the previous direction to go back to that item. So if you're going through your tests and let's say your student gives you a response, which you indicate, and then you swipe to the next item and they give you a self-correct right as you're moving on to the next item, you can swipe backward one item and you'll see this message here. click previous item, and it will allow you to go back to the item you just completed if you need to make an edit. So if they provided you with a corrected response, you can indicate that response and then continue testing from there. The reverse rule. I think this is one of the really wonderful features of this platform. As you are proceeding through your test items, when your student score triggers the reverse criterion, you're going to see this pop up on your screen and you're going to tap reverse. It's going to take you automatically to the next appropriate item for your student. This is really helpful for efficiency and also for scoring accuracy. So again, as you're proceeding from one item to the next, when your student score triggers that reverse rule, this pop-up will come up on your screen. Tap reverse and it will take you automatically to the next appropriate item. Similarly, when your student score triggers the discontinue rule, you're going to see this pop up on your screen. Here we have that they have met the discontinue criterion. We're going to choose discontinue, and that's going to take you to the end of your subtest, which looks like this screen here. So here you're at the end of the subtest, and all of your scores when you're working in live testing session will show up here at the end of the subtest screen. Now, you can use the results button here at the top right to review results. We have a subtest tab and a composites tab. Under the subtest, you can see the scaled score. You can tap on this box to see some more detailed information. You can also click to expand any of these subtests to see the item raw scores. And we have built in this graph icon here. You can tap here to give yourself a visual representation of those subtest scaled scores. When you're done looking at this screen, click Done at the top right. And that will return you back to our results screen here. The Composites tab is set up in a similar fashion, so you can see that detailed information about the composites and a graph as well. Okay, I think we have time to show you how to edit the battery. So I want to get this in to show you all that you can edit your test battery during the testing process. So for example, let's say that you have finished a test. Let's say you've administered the Wyatt-4 and you have decided that you now want to administer the KTA-3. Now, you don't have to go back to the computer. You can edit the battery right on your iPads during the test. So if you're in the testing session and you make a decision that it would be best to move on to a different test, you can simply go to the menu button and then choose the home button here. And that's going to take you back to your home screen with your student's profile information. This is what we looked at when we first signed in and selected our student's name. The edit button at the top, when you choose this button, it's going to open up the library on your screen and allow you to add tests to your current battery. So for this example, I want to add the GFTA-3 to be my next test. So here I'm going to click on the arrow next to the GFTA, and I'm going to click the plus add all button. That's going to add the GFTA to my current battery on the right. And now let's say I want to add an additional test, and I just want to add a couple of subtests. For example, for the KTA-3. If I wanted to add the entire KTA-3, I could click on this plus add all button. But if I just want to add individual subtests, I would click on the individual subtests that I wanted to add. Here, I'm adding phonological processing, nonsense word decoding. And then on the right, in my current battery, I can still configure the order of my tests as well. So not only can I add new tests, but I can also change the order at this time as well. So here, if I want to move the GFTA to be presented last, I'm just going to place my finger on the test. And actually, this arrow would be best placed over here because these little faint arrows that you see here on the right, that's where the functionality is designed to move the test. So if you place your finger here where these arrows are and hold your finger down on the screen for just a moment, then the test will begin to hover a little bit and you can drag it and drop it in a new location. So you can also use those trash bin icons to remove a test if you need to. And then finally, once you've finished configuring your order, click Save at the top. So you'll see here, we have phonological processing that we have added to administer next. So when I choose Save here at the top, it's going to take me to my screen, my profile screen of my student. Instead of Start, it now says Resume. I'm going to resume testing, which is going to take me exactly where I left off, which was the end of the subtest that I just completed. Now, as I swipe to the right, I'm presented with phonological processing. So in this way, I can just move from one test to the next. It's really nice, especially for those of you who may have been working with multiple test kits before and traveling. If you're used to taking multiple kits with you, this is so helpful to just seamlessly switch from one test to the next. You just need your 2 iPads and a few auxiliary materials such as paper and pencil for certain tests or certain response booklets. But it's so few materials and very easy to just switch from one test to the next. All right, let me show you how to review items. When you are done testing, that menu button at the bottom right of your screen, again, you're going to become very familiar with using this button. You're going to choose this and then the picture of the folders icon. The folders are going to open up a folder on the right side of your screen, which will show you all of the items that you've administered. So here, I can see all of the test items on my right now. And this flag icon, this is where I was showing you if you wanted to highlight a particular item for yourself, you can tap on that flag button and it will show up when you go to review items. This is what it looks like. So it's just a quick visual indicator. To review your items, you're going to tap on the item you want to review. So here I'm going to tap on this sample item. And now I'm going to see the same functionality or similar functionality to when I was administering the test. But I also, for those items where audio was being captured, this is how you hear the students' audio playback. At the top right of your screen, when you're reviewing items, you'll see a speaker button. Tap on the speaker button, and then you can press play to listen to that audio playback. Again, captured on item by item basis for the tests where there's a major verbal component involved. And then you can listen to just the small amount of time you were on this test time with your student, make any adjustments that you need to, if you need to indicate their response below at this time, or if you need to make a correction, you can do so. You can select score points while you're in review mode. You can write in the verbatim capture area. You can also take notes while you're reviewing. So you can click on that menu button at the bottom right, select your notepad, and that's going to open up the notepad on your screen. So you can take notes while you're reviewing items. And then once you're done reviewing this item, you can click next at the bottom right and just go ahead and continue from one item to the next until you've reviewed all of your items. When you're done reviewing items, you're going to click Done at the top right. So you'll see that the buttons are placed in familiar locations. When you're exiting a screen, it's most likely going to say Done at the top right of the screen. Finally, when you are done testing, you are going to press the sync button here at the top. So this is the same sync button that you would have selected when you signed into the platform. So you sign in, press the sync button. It brings down any assessments that you've clicked to send to your iPad. When you're done testing, press that sync button again, and it's going to send all of that data back to the website. That way you can sign in on the website and generate reports. To sign out, click on the exit door button at the top left, and then you can securely sign out. And that takes us to step 3 of our workflow, which is how to generate reports. You are going to go back to your computer. Even if you're following along right now, you can just watch my screen for this portion. Since you're not able to generate reports from practice data, let me show you what it looks like when you have completed an assessment with an actual student in the live testing mode. You're going to go to the Q Interactive website again, sign in with your username and password. You'll click on the Clients tab, and this is going to show you all of the profiles that you've created for your students. Click on the name of your student. That's going to take you into their profile. And here I'm going to see all of the tests that I've administered to them. For this example, I'm going to click on the WISC-5. And this is going to take me to my Assessments tab, which is now going to show me detailed information about this test administration. Here I have a few options I want to review with you. The first is how to create a report. Here, click on the Create Report button. That's going to show you the configuration window. This is going to have different options that you can adjust according to your environment. If there are interpretive reports or additional options, you'll see them listed below. For example, the WISC-5 has an interpretive report that you can choose to include by clicking on that checkmark box. Here is an example of a different test. So I just kind of like to highlight this for our SLPs. This is a really wonderful tool. When you go to generate the report for the GFTA3, you can click on this box here, and the KLPA3 analysis is automatically included when you generate the report. At the bottom, you'll see that there is a Word document or a PDF format available. We would recommend that you use the Word document that way, or the document format. That way you can edit and customize your report for your student. Click Generate Report, and the report will be downloaded to your computer. Okay, back here on our Assessments tab, I want to show you their digital protocol. You're going to access it by clicking on the Item Level Scores button. This is going to open up the protocol for you. It's organized at a subtest by subtest level. You'll see it listed at the top center. You can navigate from one test to the next using these arrows here. And the information, there's information obscured here for security purposes because this block design test actually shows those block configurations on your screen in the protocol, including the stimulus design as well as the your student's response. The item name is listed in this column. The score is under the raw score column. When you use the timer, anytime you use a timer, those seconds are going to be captured for you for the item. And then there are additional columns that may be unique to each subtest. When you click to proceed to the next subtest, let me show you one more example here. This is a similarities test, and this is to show you an example of what it looks like when you write in the student's response verbatim. It's going to show up in your handwriting exactly as you've written it. It will be captured here for you in the protocol. The events column shows you any of those contextual event buttons that you may have selected. Here's the Q for query, DK for I don't know. Finally, if you need to print the protocol, you can choose this button here. Your district may want to keep everything digital. This is just showing you how you can print it if you needed to. And finally, to close out of the protocol, clicking close button at the top right. Okay, the last feature I want to show you here on the website is how to view your notes. The notes that you took on the notepad during the test are going to be saved for you here on the website.
And something with one here.
If you,
babysitter.
I'm just going to mute one moment. Here we have on our screen the notes that we took during the test. So here, this is also to give you an example of what it looks like if you organize and color coordinate your notes. It can be helpful. If you take many notes, it can just be nice to have them organized here. So you can go through and review your notes back on the website as well. Now, the final feature I want to show you is removing your completed assessments. When you have finished your assessment, you have synced the data back to the website using this button here, you have generated your reports, you're fully satisfied that you no longer need to edit the assessment, then you're going to go to your iPad to delete the assessment from your iPad. Now, all of your results and scores are going to be saved permanently on the website. Once you delete it from your iPad, you will no longer be able to edit any of the information. The reason that you're going to do this is because the iPads were never intended to be a storage place for your data. They are intended to be used as a delivery device. So this is how you administer the test. But when you're ready to remove them from your iPads, you're going to choose your menu button at the bottom right of the screen. And you're going to choose the icon of this cloud button here with the arrow. And that will allow you to select whichever test you're ready to remove. So here, for example, I'm going to choose these two tests I've completed to remove. I'm going to click the remove button at the top right. And then this confirmation message shows up, letting me know the next steps that are going to happen. It's going to sync the data to the website one final time, finalize all of the scores and norms and observations. It's going to delete the audio files. So the audio files are just a tool that we have built in here. The microphone recording feature is built in to be a tool for you to use to listen to the audio playback while you're reviewing items. When you remove the assessment, it's going to permanently delete those audio files. So if you needed audio recordings for long-term purposes for another reason, you would need to use a separate device to record those test sessions. Finally, it's going to remove the assessment from the practitioner device and a note that this action cannot be undone. So once you remove it, it's gone from the iPad. You'll no longer be able to edit any of the information. However, all of your scores and results are saved permanently on the website. Okay, so here clicking remove, it's going to remove those assessments that I've selected. And now I'm just left with the one test that I'm currently still in progress with. Support resources. So for Q Interactive, the support tab under the website, this is where you're going to go to view user guides. This is also going to be where you have access to your test materials. So that link at the top left is where you could access the digital copies of your examiner manuals, your technical manuals. That's also where the audio pronunciation guides are. And then this is also where we have that link to the full video tutorial. Additionally, down below on the support tab is where we have access to the individual subtest videos, where you can see more detailed information about what it looks like to navigate through the subtest on the iPads. And here again is a reminder of what the training modules look like. I'm going to share those links and how to get to them again one more time in the chat box. And wow, we have covered a lot of information in 2 hours, less than 2 hours. So thank you all so much for your patience and following along. And if you do have questions for username and password login, any of those administrative functions, please reach out to your team about that. And if you need to reach out to us, I'm going to go ahead and include that information one more time in the chat box here. That is our technical support number. That is our local team. Please give us a call if you have any questions. And again, this is how you navigate to the Q Global training modules and the Q Interactive training modules. And I've also included the links there as well. You can go ahead and just click on those directly and save them as a bookmark. Okay, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to April and Jamie, and then also